There is something happening right now that no one around you can fully explain. Something has shifted in the atmosphere of your life. And even if you cannot name it yet, somewhere deep inside, you already know. You were not brought to this moment by accident. You were not scrolling aimlessly when this found you. There is a reason your eyes are on these words right now. And before this is over, you will understand exactly what that reason is. So stay with me. Because what I'm about to share with you is not a motivational speech. It is not a formula. It is not a 5-step plan. It is a reminder of something that has always been true about you. Something heaven has never forgotten, even in the seasons when it felt like everything else had. Let me start here. You were not created to live chasing leftovers. You were not born to fight endlessly for scraps of attention or worth. You have always carried the whisper of eternity in your chest. Even on the days when your hands were empty and your prayers felt like they dissolved before reaching the ceiling, that whisper was not an illusion. It was not arrogance. It was not delusion. It was the memory of something older than your first breath, a truth rooted in God's design before the world ever taught you how to shrink just to survive. The Word of God says, in the book of Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you had a name, God had a plan. Before your parents chose what to call you, heaven had already written your story. Before you ever made a single mistake, before you ever fell short, before you ever carried the weight of feeling unworthy, you were already known, fully seen, fully chosen. And that did not change because of anything that happened after. Not the hard years, not the failures you still carry quietly, not the doors that closed, not the relationships that ended before they should have, not the seasons where you prayed with everything you had and heard nothing back. God's knowing of you is not conditional on your performance. It is not a reward for the seasons you got it right. It was established before you ever had the chance to get anything right or wrong at all. And here is what I want you to hold on to as we walk through this together. What God began in you before your birth, He has not abandoned. Not in the years that felt like loss, not in the seasons that felt like silence. There is something specific that heaven has been preparing for you. There is a moment that has been appointed with your name on it. And by the time this message reaches its end, you will understand what it is. And more importantly, you will understand why the timing of it is more perfect than anything you could have engineered on your own. Now, I want to talk to you about what those hard years actually were, because most people are walking around carrying a false story about their pain. They have quietly concluded that the suffering meant they were forgotten, that the silence meant they were rejected, that the delay meant they were disqualified. But the scripture tells us something radically different. In the letter to the Romans, chapter 8, verse 28, the word says, "And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to His purpose." All things. Not just the beautiful things, not just the victories, all of it. The losses, the betrayals, the doors that closed so hard you felt the walls shake. The years you gave everything and received nothing visible in return. The nights you cried yourself to sleep and still woke up the next morning with faith because you did not know how to stop. All of it was working together. Think carefully about what the word together means. It does not mean each piece was good on its own. It means God was assembling something. The way a master craftsman lays out pieces that look like chaos until the final form begins to emerge. You were not watching your life fall apart. You were watching God gather the materials for something you had not yet seen. I think of a man who spent 7 years in a position he was overqualified for. 7 years of watching people with less integrity, less skill, and less faithfulness receive the recognition he deserved. 7 years of quiet prayers and quiet tears and a quiet refusal to become bitter. 7 years of staying faithful to who he was when no one was applauding that faithfulness. And then, one ordinary morning, with no announcement and no dramatic moment, a door opened. A door so perfectly suited to who he had become in those 7 quiet years that if it had arrived even 1 year earlier, he would not have been ready to walk through it. That is not coincidence. That is precision. And that is what God was doing in those years that felt like they were taking something from you. He was actually building something in you. The book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 3, speaks of what God gives to those who have endured grief. It says he will give beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Beauty for ashes. Do you understand what that exchange means? Ashes are what remain when something has burned. They are the proof of loss, the evidence of what was taken, and God does not look past the ashes of your life. He does not pretend they are not real or tell you to focus on the positive and move on. He walks straight toward them, and he begins the exchange. Your suffering becomes the very material of your testimony. Your waiting becomes the very weight of your authority. Your mourning becomes the very depth of your joy. The years you lost are not wasted when they are in God's hands. They become the foundation no storm can move, because it was forged in fire. Now let me speak to you about the season of silence, the season where the vision inside you seemed to be fading rather than forming, the season where everyone else appeared to be moving and you appeared to be standing still. There is something important you need to understand about that season. It was not a sign that you were falling behind. It was a sign that what was being prepared for you required a different kind of preparation than what others were receiving. The prophet Habakkuk wrote in chapter 2 verse 3, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time." It speaks of the end and does not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not delay. The vision has an appointed time, not the time you planned for, not the time others expected of you. An appointed time. A time that is locked in place by the one who holds all time. And appointed means set. It means sealed. It means unmovable. No amount of human striving can accelerate it beyond what God has ordained, and no amount of human failure can cancel what God has appointed. The vision will come at its appointed time. Now hear this. The fact that it has not arrived yet is not a verdict on your worthiness. It is not a statement about your value. It is simply the reality that the appointed moment is still ahead of you. And God, who does not operate by our clocks or our timelines, is already working in the future that you are walking toward. From his vantage point, it is already done. You are simply still arriving at it from yours. He says in Isaiah chapter 43 verse 19, "Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert." A way in the wilderness, rivers in the desert. God specializes in provision where provision makes no logical sense. He does his most remarkable work in the places where humans have already written off the possibility, where people have already declared it barren, turned around, and walked away. If your life has felt like a wilderness, if this season has felt like a desert, then you are exactly in the terrain where God does his most stunning, most undeniable work. The wilderness is not your final destination. It is the address where God meets you before he leads you into what he promised. If this is speaking to something real in you right now, I want you to do something simple before we go any further. Scroll down and leave one word in the comments. Ready? Just that word. That one word is your declaration. It is your agreement with what heaven is already doing in your life. It is your way of saying, "I am here, I believe, and I receive what is coming." Do not overthink it. Just type it, and let that be your seed planted in this moment. Now, let me tell you what happens when the appointed time arrives. It does not always come with a trumpet. It does not always arrive with a dramatic, unmistakable sign. Sometimes it arrives quietly, like a door you have walked past 100 times that suddenly stands open. Sometimes it comes in the middle of an ordinary day, with no fanfare and no ceremony, but you will know, because something in your spirit has been quietly trained to recognize the moment when it comes. The Word of God confirms what is approaching. In the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 2, the Lord declares, "And all these blessings shall come on you and overtake you, if you shall listen to the voice of the Lord your God." The word I want you to sit with is overtake. Blessings that chase you down. Blessings that do not wait for you to earn them, to perfectly position yourself for them, or to market yourself into them. Blessings that are already moving faster than your own footsteps, because God dispatched them ahead of you. They are not on their way, they are already in motion. They are simply catching up. I think of a woman who spent 3 years turning down opportunities that would have paid her more, opened more doors, given her more visibility. 3 times, she said no, because each one required her to compromise something she had decided was not for sale. Her integrity, her truth, her sense of what she had been called to. 3 times. The people around her shook their heads. 3 times. She walked away from tables that looked like success from the outside, but felt like surrender on the inside. And then, in a single season, everything she had quietly believed for began to arrive at once. Not one door, several doors, opening at the same time. Not just provision overflow, not just recognition from a few, honor from many, because when God dispatches the overtaking blessing, it does not trickle in. It arrives with the full weight of everything that was being held back in preparation for this moment. The psalmist wrote, in the book of Psalms, chapter 75, verses 6 and 7, "For promotion comes neither from the east, nor from the west, nor from the south, but God is the judge. He puts down one and raises up another." Your promotion is not being decided in a boardroom. It is not being negotiated in a conversation that someone else is having about you. It is not being held hostage by someone with a title or a gatekeeping institution. God is the one who raises up. And when God raises someone, no structure on earth carries the authority to hold them down. Now let me speak to you about what this wealth actually looks like. Because the abundance God is releasing into your life is not simply currency. It is not just numbers on a screen or a balance that finally lets you breathe more easily, though that is part of it. The wealth God releases carries something that money alone cannot purchase. The book of Proverbs, chapter 10, verse 22 says, "The blessing of the Lord makes one rich, and he adds no sorrow with it." No sorrow. That is the defining mark of God's provision. Think about the things you have watched others attain through striving, through manipulation, through performing a version of themselves that was never real. Even when they reached what they were chasing, they could not rest in it. There was always another rung to climb, always another threat to manage, always another thing to protect. That is not what is coming to you. What is coming carries peace in its very architecture. It is the kind of wealth that feels like breathing, not bargaining. The kind that does not ask you to become someone you cannot recognize when you look in the mirror at the end of the day. The kind that says, "You are safe now, you can stop running, you have arrived." And it does not stop at wealth of resource. It expands into wealth of relationship, of purpose, of legacy. It opens doors of connection with people whose presence in your life becomes acceleration. It creates alignment between what you do and who you are, so that your work no longer feels like labor, but like the natural expression of what you were made for. In his letter to the Ephesians, chapter 3, verse 20, the Apostle Paul wrote, "Now to him who is able to do exceedingly abundantly, above all that we ask or think, according to the power that works in us, exceedingly, abundantly, above 3 layers, beyond what your mind has yet dared to fully ask for. God is not operating at the ceiling of your imagination. He is working beyond it, in dimensions you have not yet developed language for. The power that works in us, that phrase is the key. As you align with who God called you to be, as you move in truth and integrity and purpose, you become the very channel through which that exceedingly abundant blessing flows. It is not about passive waiting. It is about remaining in alignment so that what heaven has already dispatched can find you exactly where you are. And if this message today has been part of that alignment for you, I want to take just a moment to say something. This channel exists because someone believed that words rooted in truth have the power to change the direction of a life. That the right reminder at the right moment can shift a year, shift a decade, shift a legacy. If that has been your experience today, YouTube has a feature called Super Thanks right there beneath this video. It is a simple way of saying, I received something here and I want to sow back into this space. Every act of support helps this message reach more people who are in the middle of their wilderness, waiting for their appointed time. If that is on your heart, we receive it with deep gratitude and with prayer. Now, let me tell you what this season is about to feel like. For a long time, you lived in striving mode. You pushed doors, you made calls, you followed up, you showed up even when it cost more than you had in reserve. And there is nothing wrong with faithfulness. Faithfulness matters deeply. But there is a shift that happens when God decides the season of preparation is complete. The pushing stops, not because you gave up, but because the door begins to swing open from the inside. Rooms that were locked begin to open. Not because you finally found the right key, but because the one who holds every key decided the time had come. People begin to reach out who have no natural reason to contact you. Opportunities surface that cannot be traced back to anything you manufactured. Provision appears before the pressure arrives, and that is how you know it is not the fruit of your effort. It is the fruit of your faithfulness. All of it comes wrapped in a particular feeling you may not have experienced in quite this way before. Ease. Not the ease of avoidance, not the ease of coasting. The ease of moving with the current instead of against it. The ease of walking in the grain of what you were created for, so that even the effort feels like flow. This is what it means to enter a season of divine momentum. And it is not because you finally got everything right. It is because you stayed when leaving would have been easier. When others dropped the weight, you kept carrying it. When others adjusted their truth to fit the moment, you held yours. When others performed their way toward recognition, you quietly continued to become. And heaven recorded every moment of that becoming. There is a woman I think of who spent years being overlooked in every room she entered, qualified beyond measure, faithful beyond question, but somehow always standing adjacent to the door rather than being the one invited through it. She stopped asking why. She stopped calculating what she was doing wrong. She simply continued to become more of who she already knew she had been called to be. And then, in a season she had not expected, she became the person others were clearing rooms to find. Not because she ran a campaign, not because she finally cracked the right strategy, but because the weight of her becoming had accumulated to the point where the world had no choice but to feel it. That is where you are. The accumulation is complete. The foundation has been laid with years of faithfulness and integrity and quiet endurance. And what is about to be built on it will stand in a way that nothing built in haste or compromise ever could. You are not stepping into a lucky break. You are stepping into the fulfillment of what was written before you were born. I told you at the beginning of this message that before it was over, you would understand why you are here. Here is what I want you to know. You were led to this moment because heaven wanted you to hear this before the shift arrives. Because when it comes, and it is coming, you will need to know that you were told. You will need to remember that you were warned, in the best possible sense of that word, that overflow was already on its way to you. The book of Revelation, chapter 3 verse 8 says, "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. No one can shut it." Not the person who has resisted you, not the system that has excluded you, not the failure you are most ashamed of, not the years you feel were wasted, not the voice that told you it was too late, that you had missed your window, that people like you do not get to have what you were made to carry. No one can shut the door that God has placed before you. It is open. It will remain open, and you are walking toward it right now. You are not stepping into a season of survival. You are stepping into the fullness of what was written before you ever drew your first breath. Not the version of you that learned to cope with disappointment. Not the version that learned to manage and minimize and make do. The real you, the called you, the formed you, the known you, the one who walked through fire and did not grow bitter, the one who lost much and still stayed kind, the one who refused to trade truth for attention, or integrity for access, or identity for applause. That is the one heaven is about to honor, in ways that will make even your hardest years feel like they were worth every sleepless night, every silent prayer, every season of standing when you had no evidence that standing would matter. It mattered, all of it mattered. You did not survive those years in spite of your calling, you survived them because of it. The same calling that formed you before your first breath has been sustaining you through every season since. And it is the same calling that is now, in this hour, bringing you into the fullness of everything that was always promised. So let it in. Let the ease in, let the favor in, let the recognition in. Not because you need external affirmation to know who you are, but because God has declared it is time. And when heaven says it is time, even what seemed permanently closed becomes the most natural opening you have ever walked through. Rise a little taller today, speak a little more slowly, carry the quiet gravity of someone who knows what has already been written about them, because you are not hustling for scraps anymore, you are hosting abundance. You are not begging to be seen. You are being positioned to be honored. You are not just surviving this page of your story. You are becoming the headline that heaven already wrote for you before the world began. And your story is nowhere near finished. If this message has spoken to something real in you today, I want to invite you to become part of this community. Chosen Pathfinders is a gathering of people who have chosen the quieter, more faithful road. People who believe that what God plants in secret, He brings to harvest in its perfect time. We are on our way to 20,000 people walking this journey together. And your voice, your presence, your story belongs in this number. If you have not yet subscribed to the channel, hit that button now and join us. Because the next message is already waiting, and it was written with someone exactly like you in mind. Share this today with someone who needs to hear that they have not been forgotten, because sometimes the most sacred thing we can offer another person is the reminder that heaven is still working on their behalf. Thank you for walking this with us. We will see you in the next one. Your story is only beginning, and heaven is not finished with you yet.